United States submarine base at Key West, Florida. A dispatch that quoted President Truman's press secretary, Charles Ross, as saying that President Truman has no knowledge of any secret project by this government that would give substance to the existence of such objects. Ross also said that both the Air Force and the Navy deny that such objects exist.
Hi. Brutal time to be us. I just want to say, brutal time to be us. We have basically been sick since October, and now you're finally feeling it. So, yeah, even that 2-week holiday break we took, I was sick the whole time.
I'm still blaming it on anything other than actually being sick, but
it's very anti-vaxxer of you.
I know, but I've been so fucking vaccinated, man. I got vaccinated in September.
Yeah, but that won't prevent a viral infection, which is what I assume you have. Like, that's for the flu and COVID, so.
Yeah. Are viral infections, those are...
contagious, yeah.
Those are contagious, aren't they?
Dude, it's all contagious, and it all has the same symptoms. Just assume that.
Yeah, I do have a dinner with friends tomorrow, but like we said off mic, I'm just going to let them know that I'm not feeling well and then wear a mask. And I'll just drink the whole time instead of eat. And then that way I'll have a little straw in my mouth.
Yeah, just don't spread your droplets, cover your mouth. You know the deal. So anyway, I feel like it's been a minute. And I know it's been a minute because even writing this, I was like, how do I start this? You know what I mean? It was...
Yeah.
I had actually made this into a PowerPoint that was presented during a Friends Miss PowerPoint event. And I took the PowerPoint, put it on the document, and was like, now what? It took me a second to dive back into it. But I felt like I would be robbing everyone of an experience if I didn't share it with you, because it's genuinely one of the few conspiracy theories I actually love and believe in, and it has so much tangible evidence that it's kind of like, damn, honestly, prove me why I'm wrong. Like, you know, it's very fun. So
it's definitely a good one. It is one of the fun ones where I hope it doesn't lead to anti-Semitism.
I don't think it does. Actually, it could in the way. Yeah, actually, because his parents were Jewish immigrants.
Well, he's not the anti-Semite.
No, but like anti-Semitism could be connected.
Yeah, well, can't win them all.
Yeah, it's, you know, the degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like anti-Semitism and a conspiracy are just a neighbor away. But I also want to just give a disclaimer. There are people, even people we know, who have made this story their life's work and have published books about it and have gone on talking tours about it. Yeah. I am not in that realm.
Neither of us. We've never been paid for anything in our lives.
No. So I just want to set expectations on the floor where they belong before we get started.
Yes, thank you for that disclaimer, because I didn't want anyone to think that we were going to put out any kind of quality work.
No. So now that we got that out of the way, Stanley Kubrick was born on July 26, 1928 in the Bronx, New York, to Jacques Kubrick, a physician, and Sadie Kubrick, who was a stay-at-home mom. Both his parents were Jewish immigrants, and he had one younger sister, Barbara. People would note that in his childhood and teen years, he got by in school, but was very curious in the fields of literature, photography, and of course, cinema. And I say got by in school because a lot of artists have this, like, I don't even know, savant. They had it since they were young. Like, they had all of these. Everyone just noted Kubrick as like, yeah, he just was like a C's get degrees type of guy.
Yeah, he wasn't, they were trying to measure how far he could fly, but really he was just a beautiful fish.
Yeah. And yeah, that's exactly it. And that's not to say he was a slacker or didn't care. He was just particular. So his energies were not being spent in being like a fantastic mathematician. They were spent elsewhere.
Yeah, he was an artiste.
Exactly. Very left-brained.
Mm.
And Kubrick's understanding of photography and film was all self-taught and through his own trial and error. Taking pictures of a newspaper street vendor's reaction to the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt is what would end up getting him picked up by Look magazine as a staff photographer. And just as a little note, he sold that image to them for $25, which I feel like is a fair price for 1940s, right?
Yeah, it feels fair. I mean, that's
one image, $25, 1945. I bet that's like $1 million today. So,
yeah, he did good. He did good, kid.
Yeah. He started at Look magazine in 1945, becoming one of the youngest photographers on the magazine's staff. Kubrick covered a range of subjects during his time at Look, from celebrity profiles to social issues. He photographed boxers, musicians, and even just documented the daily lives of ordinary people. You could see this as the beginning to his distinctive visual style. He experimented with different angles, lighting, and compositions. Even his early works in photography were unique and experimental. Working on photo essays for Look taught him the importance of visual storytelling, learning how to sequence images to create a narrative, evoke emotions, and convey a message. Kubrick left the magazine in 1950 to scratch the perpetual itch he had the entire time, filmmaking. And he began to experiment with short films and self-funded the following. And before I tell you those following, I was trying to dig up in blurbs from like biographies of what made him take the jump. And no one could really say anything in particular other than he was just your classic artist who said, I'm going to put my feet in 100%.
Yeah.
And I feel like usually when people leave a career to start something in the unknown that they have never been formally trained in, that it's like a passion that they want to turn into like a full-time career.
Mm-hmm.
There's either like a kickstarting event or they do like a half and half. Like they're still doing their full-time job and then they're trying to make their art become their living. But Kubrick was one of those people who was just like, no, I'm giving it 100%. I'm going full force into it.
Do you think that was easier to do back then or it's easier to do now?
That was actually something I also looked up because I feel like, and the summary of it was like, yes, in the context of where we are right now, it was easier to attempt to make art a full-time career back in the day, just because of the standard of living and also the types of side jobs you could pick up and take as an artist.
That makes sense, yeah. Because there's not really much side job that you can do nowadays where it would let you just kind of dip your toe in for a day or two and then pursue your art again later. It's like you have to be all into every job all the time now.
Yeah, exactly. Like being a freelancer today is hard, especially in today when we are fighting against like AI generated everything. Getting a freelance job in the arts is difficult, but like back then, every newspaper, needed a photographer and there was no real big paparazzi presence in a sense. So you could really just like take photos and make a living off of that.
That's
just
crazy.
Selling them to magazines.
Wish it could still be that way.
Yeah.
Just making a living.
I mean, we say, making a living, period. But I think there was a point where people were trying to make taking photos their full-time job to sell to magazines. And then we got like the evil 2000s predatory paparazzi buying an apartment that looked over someone's house so they could get pictures of them overdosing type shit.
Yeah.
So.
It definitely, the pendulum swung both ways and the bell tolled for the...
But I also think, hey, maybe that's the natural progression, right? It started off as like your everyman could kind of do it if they had any sort of artistic vision to now everyone's trying to do it. So the only pictures that sell are like someone actively dying. a celebrity.
Yeah, or like the ones that the celebrities are just selling themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, just interesting to think about his, I don't know, his life at that time to just give it all up and take a chance on his art.
I love that for him.
Me too.
I love it because I know he succeeded.
I know that he went beyond success. He went almost otherworldly.
Yeah.
And it's also really fun to know that he was fully self-trained, self-taught. He didn't go to any sort of film school. It was all just his own passions fueling and the natural artistic ability that he had and he continued to work on and work for.
I wonder if that worked for him. Like if he would have gone to school, would that have worked against him? Would we not have gotten the Stanley Kubrick that we know and love today? Or would he have been even better?
No, I think so. I genuinely think that. I think he is someone who, and we'll learn shortly in a second, he is so particular and meticulous, and it's like his way or the highway, and not in a like cunty way, in a my art is made for me and my vision, and it's not for like you or the consumer, but you're a benefit. Like if you like it, that's a benefit to you, but like that's not the point of why I do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he was like always butting heads with the quote unquote system, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think if he went to like a formal film school, he would have either dropped out or I think that would have been it. I don't think he ever would have conformed to any sort of standard because like he innovated so many different camera techniques and filming techniques, lighting techniques and lenses that I think only come from someone who has no chains wrapped around what is the standard, what should it be, what shouldn't it be. Like that is the only downfall to a like standardized education in the arts is sometimes you put people in a box of this is what is expected of an industry standard. This is how we, set up moving dollies. This is how we frame shots. This is how, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas like his breaking the mold, I think came from him just being like, this is my vision and I'm going to figure out how to make it work despite how the standard is set today for film.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if I don't know, I have to invent it.
Exactly. So. Yeah, exactly. So,
got it.
Yeah. And he started with 2 short films, again, that were self-funded. And they were 1951's Day of the Fights, which was a documentary that followed a middleweight boxer in the days leading up to his championship fight. And then Flying Padre in the same year, which was another documentary short about a priest who used a small airplane to serve remote communities in the America Southwest, which is very fun and cool. 2 years later, he would again self-fund his first feature film and directorial debut with Fear and Desire in 1953. And this one
I've not seen any of these. I feel bad.
Don't feel bad. I wouldn't expect you to. Even Fear and Desire didn't come back around for people like fans of Kubrick and scholars of Kubrick like watching until fairly recently, within the last decade. It was kind of like lost to the time until the like resurgence of his work in cinema came back up, and then people started to look back on it. And it was an anti-war story of 4 American soldiers stranded behind enemy lines. It's not a specified war. It's just like a war period. And it explores the themes of fear, death, desire, and the dehumanizing effects of war. So this might ring a bell if you know of Stanley Kubrick's filmography and what he ends up creating in the future. But the film received mixed reviews upon its release. Some critics praised its visual style and ambition, while others found it overly symbolic and even a little pretentious, which is rude. Due to its limited budget and experimental nature, it received a very limited theatrical release. But despite its initial reception and limited distribution, Fear and Desire is the first brick on the road that would be Kubrick's experimental, controversial, and complex filmography. And what I'm about to tell you right now feeds into the whole It was his way or the highway. He was always fighting up against a system and the powers that be, and he would do whatever it takes to make what he wanted and his vision happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because in 1961, he left the United States to move to England, a place he would rarely leave for the remainder of his life. And his relocation was for mainly one reason. He hated the constraints of Hollywood. As a perfectionist with a distinct vision, refusing to make any concessions, he frequently fought with studio executives who had often interfered with casting, editing, and the final cuts of film. Kubrick, as not just like a filmmaker and director, and sometimes writer, he had his hand in everything. And this goes for both his films and the end product of the film, that every single thing has a reason why it's there, from the color of the carpet to the specific actor played to the time of day it's shot. Everything has a purpose, and he felt the same with casting and editing, which obviously film studios don't necessarily love that. They want to make sure, of course, casting directors are looking to fill a role, but they want to have faces who are recognizable to sell IP, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. Yeah.
So while the film industry in the 1960s was in a better place than 14 years before, with the House Un-American Activities Committee arresting screenwriters and directors for being suspected communists, the 1960s saw a rise in big-budget epics and musicals. While Kubrick made Spartacus in 1960, his interests often leaned towards more cerebral and avant-garde cinema, which he found by leaving the country. So now let's go over his timeline of films. Sorry, I don't get into like his love life and his different marriages and kids and girlfriends. I just don't care.
Yeah, who cares? I didn't even does he have a sordid love life? Is that something we're supposed? Okay. Well, he was an artist. Did he ever do anything bad?
I think he lost a daughter to Scientology.
Was that his fault though?
No. He was just your typical art guy. Like, he had relationships and they just fell apart because he was a really particular work comes first, my craft comes first. I know that he had like this ongoing like back and forth love affair with a dancer, and then but it was really casual and friendly and it wasn't serious, but not in like a hurtful way. And he just wrote her one day and was like, "Hey, I'm in love with this woman, but you're still great and I love you as a friend." And she was like, "I expect that, sure."
Okay.
Okay.
Not like, the best, but
no, yeah, not the best. Like that's
why we're not getting into it.
Yeah, it's not
because we want to focus on the greatness.
Yeah, I just want to focus on the good shit that he liked and not how he was like a weird guy to date.
Yeah, it's like the adults were consenting. Mm-hmm. He may have been an ass, but no one.
Yeah, like as far as I can tell, exactly. Like even as far as I could tell, the sordid relationships were still cordial and friendly because everyone knew who he was. That's the thing. He never lied about being like a stick in the mud.
Yeah.
He knew, like everyone knew that's who he was. And
okay.
Yeah. So in 1962, we have Lolita, Kubrick's adaptation of the novel of the same name, which was highly controversial due to its subject matter. Without reading ahead, do you know what that is about, Chelsea?
I do know what that is about because it pops up on TikTok sometimes of a man who like falls in love with a child.
Yes, it is a story of pedophilia. And it's also why Jeffrey Epstein's private jet was named the Lolita Express.
Gross.
I know. Despite the controversy, the film received critical acclaim for its cinematography, which is just so Stanley Kubrick to be a part of this highly controversial and inappropriate movie, and everyone being like, this was disturbing and weird and uncomfortable, but goddamn was it shot to fucking perfection.
Isn't Jeremy Irons in it? Like, it has heavy hitters.
It does have heavy hitters in it. It's one of those movies similar to Leon the Professional, which
Uh-huh.
also has kind of a iffy relationship with a child. I mean, this is straight up pedophilia. Leon was kind of iffy and uncomfortable. But it's one of those films that like goes crazy on fucking, I should say went crazy on fucking Tumblr. And you're like,
Yeah.
this is creepy, but it's also by like the little lollipop adults who try to dress like children online.
It seems to have had a niche of some
Mhm.
people who would either appreciate the art of the disturbing context to it, and then also girls who like to dress up like little
Yeah.
dolls.
Yeah. That subgenre of very online people back in like 2010s Tumblr went fucking crazy for Lolita.
Yeah.
But most people, as they should, it's very uncomfortable watch. Both
Mhm.
both the movie and the book. So traditionally, filmmakers often use tracking shots, moving the camera on a dolly to create dynamic movement. Kubrick, however, experimented with zoom lenses on this film, often mimicking the effects of tracking shots while keeping the camera stationary. And this is that classic Kubrick style shot. And it's that like, it's zooming in while getting closer. It's just, I don't know, very
Mm.
cool, very him. Then we have Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, which is 1964. And it is a satirical black comedy that satirizes the absurdity of Cold War politics and the threat of nuclear annihilation. Specifically, that nuclear weapons place humanity's fate in the hands of egotistical, incompetent leaders who don't care about us. And I would put Dr. Strangelove in the same category as Death of Stalin, which, if you have not seen it, go see it. You can rent it online. It is another comedy with a fucking heavy hitter cast of comedians who are reenacting the day that Stalin died and how everyone close to him was fucking terrified because they didn't want to be killed for being the person to say
Isn't this the one with the
Okay.
weird baby? Dr.
Weird baby.
Strangelove? Oh, I'm thinking of Eraserhead.
Yeah, you're thinking. Yeah, wrong. I mean,
I'm
yeah,
trying, man.
yeah, you tried so hard.
Fuck.
That's David Lynch.
Yeah, at least I have never pretended to be something I'm not.
Yeah,
And
that's
what I
true.
am not is knowledgeable about things.
I mean, I give you a half point. I would say that David Lynch was very inspired by Stanley Kubrick.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of Lynch fans out there. I would say maybe I'm more a Kubrick girl than I am a Lynch girl.
You are more Kubrick than Lynchian.
Yeah, because like when I see a Stanley Kubrick film like The Shining or things that are a little bit more commercialized, I get it. Sometimes I don't get David Lynch.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, I think that I don't know. I think you need to watch Mulholland Drive and then come back to me and talk about David Lynch. Or actually, no. You need to watch Wild at Heart with Nick Cage by the fantastic David Lynch, and then come back to me and tell me you don't understand Lynch. And that's to everyone out there.
Okay, I'll try. Because sometimes, girl, it ain't. I'm watching it and it's not good to me.
Yeah, it's very, I don't know. David Lynch is, to me, I would say he's someone who like did a lot of, and this is probably totally not true, but this is just how I imagine his brain developed. He's like someone who just did like a lot of psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
And then like this is how his brain, but he did a lot of psychedelics, but he's very macabre. He's not like doing psychedelics and like listening to Sublime and like tie-dyeing shirts. He's doing psychedelics and then thinking about like a teen murder.
Okay.
So, but anyway, Wild at Heart, watch it, Nick Cage. Then we have my personal favorite, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which came out in 1968. Kubrick collaborated with NASA. Some reports say for over a year. Some say like less. There's no real timeline on it, but he worked with NASA extensively for realistic depictions of space. And he pioneered special effects in this film, the iconic Stargate sequence, where astronaut Dave Bowman travels through a mysterious Stargate and experiences a psychedelic journey through space and time. This sequence is considered a masterpiece of special effects even by today's standards, and is the reason why it won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. It, of course, had the introduction of HAL 9000, where the AI computer becomes sentient, and the overall exploration of human evolution, AI, the nature of consciousness, extraterrestrial life, and if there has always been something else guiding the hands of humanity. I think 2001 is one of the most visually stunning movies ever created, period, point blank. It gives me like sci-fi Technicolor vibes. The set designs and shot sequences are insane. Even when you think about like how it was made in the 60s, it blows modern movies out of the fucking water.
It definitely feels like it transcends, like it's past its time. Almost like how Star Wars was, where people want to go in and nitpick on how it doesn't look like perfect today. But then you're like, it really does hold up because practical effects, everything that they did still leads to a good experience when you're watching it. Like you're not taken out of the atmospheric presence that movie has. Yeah,
I think because they went with practical effects and practically built sets that are so fucking sci-fi, it breaks your brain. It takes you out and in this like headspace of how was this created? Like this is before even right now. Like this is something of the future come to us in the past.
Yeah.
And of course, there is also a little extra love for 2001 for me. And I think a lot of conspiracy theorists in the Kubrick land, because the moon landing happened on July 20th, 1968, obviously during the Apollo 11 mission. And the other conspiracy that we're not going to get into today is that Kubrick helped it was a handshake deal between him and NASA. NASA would help him on his movie, and he would help NASA on their movie being Faking the Moon Landing. So.
Yes, which is not a conspiracy at all.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, honestly. Look at the footage from the moon landing and then watch 2001 A Space Odyssey. 2001 looks fucking better, dude. Like
even, yeah. Better. It's all over The Shining that he faked the moon landing. Like he hid the secrets in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and we know it.
Yeah, the little sweater, the little Apollo 11 sweater. He's a funny guy. So anyway, we have A Clockwork Orange in 1971, a controversial film exploring themes of violence, free will, and social control. Another film with striking visuals, including the use of ultraviolence or stylized violence and the juxtaposition of classical music with scenes of brutality, which is something we see a lot now. I also think of oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. Foot fetish. Kill Bill.
David Carradine?
No.
Oh, the director. Quentin Tarantino.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's the COVID holes in my brain. I think of Quentin Tarantino a lot when I think of Stanley Kubrick introducing this like classical music behind scenes of brutality. I very much think of Tarantino movies, and it's super fun. Some of my favorite shit. And as I mentioned, the controversy stems from the graphic violence. However, it's interesting to note that all of the torture techniques depicted are directly inspired by government-developed psychological manipulation techniques, like the Ludovico technique. I don't know, brainwashing. The eye shit.
Is that what the eye? Yeah.
Yep.
That's one of my favorite books, A Clockwork Orange. I did not care for the movie, but the movie was so disturbing, and that's why I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
In a book, you can separate yourself from that.
Yeah.
A little better.
Yeah, it's a rough one. But iconic and a favorite Halloween costume of many. So then we have in 1975, Barry Lyndon. Instead of relying on artificial lighting, Kubrick primarily used natural light, including sunlight and candlelight, to illuminate his scenes. A major innovation was the use of specialized lenses designed for filming in candlelight. These lenses Originally developed for NASA. Sounds like Kubrick is really buddy-buddy with NASA. And he got these lenses that were built for space exploration. Just, I don't know, I guess they were just like, Kubrick, we love you so much. Here, have this. It's definitely not because we have like this mutual agreement of being in cahoots of one of the biggest government psyop conspiracies ever. But anyway, so he got these NASA lenses and it allowed him to capture the images in extremely low light conditions. And it created a unique and visually stunning aesthetic. And just a little note to him and his meticulousness and his perfectionism. The film was heavily researched for years to recreate the 18th century life. And a lot of historians and scholars will say that it is remarkably accurate. Then we have 1980's The Shining, considered by many, and I'm not just saying this, to be one of the greatest horror films ever made, genuinely, as it transcends the genre. Kubrick meticulously crafted the arrangement of visual effects within the frame, utilizing long takes, slow zooms, over-the-shoulder shots, and unsettling camera angles to create the feelings of unease and paranoia. The Here's Johnny scene was shot over 100 times. I think it was 127 is the exact amount. Don't quote me on it.
Insane.
Just if you want a glimpse of how intense and insane of a perfectionist he was, the constant retakes and reshoots and do it again is obviously the negative feedback that a lot of the actors had. And Kubrick would not defend, but he would explain the reason why he did this was he needed them to be exhausted. He needed he needed Jack Nicholson to feel fucking insane and annoyed and almost like having a broken mental state. And he needed Shelley Duvall to feel exhausted and on the verge of collapse. And he did it over and over and over again to get them in that state physically and mentally to capture the scene that we see in the film today. Is it ethical? No, but that's Stanley Kubrick.
That's showbiz, baby.
Yep, that's showbiz. The film delves into the exploitation of human weakness by powerful institutions, symbolized by the Overlook Hotel, and some would say the hotel, built on an Indian burial ground, serves as a metaphor for America's bloody colonial history and perpetuated cycles of violence and abuse. And of course, there's tons of symbolic imagery, reoccurring motifs, and the labyrinth structure of the hotel. We have 1987's Full Metal Jacket. This film is renowned for its raw and unflinching portrayal of the psychological and physical toll that war inflicts on soldiers. It is divided into two distinct parts. The movie first goes into the brutal boot camp training, highlighting the dehumanization process that transforms recruits into instruments of war. And the second half of the film shifts to the war-torn landscapes of Vietnam, showcasing the horror, chaos, and destruction of war. Full Metal Jacket isn't just a war movie or even just an anti-war movie. It's meant to expose the deeper mental scars that soldiers carry and the profound understanding of the cost of war, dying for political agendas that have nothing to do with us. And the actual reason why we're here today, which is 1999's Eyes Wide Shut.
A film that I still haven't watched in full.
Crazy. That's crazy. I hope you watch it after this. So, our main protagonist is Dr. Bill Hadford, played by Tom Cruise, and his journey is marked by repeated warnings to cease his inquiries into a secret society. His wife, Alice, played by Nicole Kidman, yes, they were married at this time, has dreams of infidelity that she eventually tells him after a fairly sexist "women don't have sexual desires like men" monologue from Bill. Bill's obsession with uncovering the society's secrets is a metaphor for his own existential quests. His initial bravado, rooted in his social status and sexual confidence, crumbles as he delves deeper into a world far beyond his control or understanding. This journey reveals his naivety about the true power dynamics in society and shatters his perception of himself as a man of significance. The people at the rich associates party in the mansion on the hill end up being the same people in cloaks and masks he sees during the sex ritual. In the film's conclusion, Bill and Alice seem to unflinchingly hand their daughter, Helena, to the secret society. This is depicted in a toy store scene where Helena is seen interacting with two men who resemble members of the society and have been in the background of most scenes. This moment signifies their indoctrination and shows the sacrificing to maintain control. Helena's fate is implied to be part of a deal ensuring her parents' safety. The film has mass sex rituals, pedophilic elite, Masonic, and occult symbolism as seen in just a few. The mansion's pyramid-like architecture, the robes and mask during the ritual, the Christian liturgy, I don't know, it's a prayer, but it's played in reverse during the sex ritual, which is very fucking cool. Even the password Fidelio, which references loyalty, the password to get in to the little sex party. And the inclusion of human trafficking themes, such as the costume shop owner pimping out his underage daughter. Eyes Wide Shut draws parallels that we have now seen play out with Bohemian Grove and elite pedophilic scandals. The portrayal of hidden power structures mirrors this. Cults and secret societies reinforce their grip with blackmail over your head, instilling fear of retribution. And just in addition here, you can also say the film highlights the tendency to project fears onto secret societies, often overlooking blatant systematic abuses in institutions like the Catholic Church or Boy Scouts. That the fixation on hidden cabals distracts from addressing real ongoing abuses, as seen in cases of systemic child sexual abuse that are neither secret nor concealed. So that's Noelle popping in there to just put that before we go back into conspiracy land. Okay, the tinfoil's back on. So Bill's journey mirrors the audience's journey for meaning in the film. The struggle to accept the existence of morally corrupt people committing atrocities for wealth and power. Kubrick offers no resolution or heroic resistance. Instead, the film acknowledges the full control and uncomfortable truths about the world and themselves. But I want to point out that the scenes depicting black and white pedophilia are odd.
Yes. The scenes I have seen are very weird.
They're weird. They feel like fragments of a larger scene that we aren't seeing. Even the scene where Bill is looking over the body at the morgue, slowly getting closer to her face. Scholars of Kubrick's film techniques will say this was clearly shot for narration, but the dialogue is missing. And this is all connected to an ongoing debate for the past 2 decades. The released version of Eyes Wide Shut is not the film Stanley Kubrick intended for us to see.
Did he died in the middle of it, right? Or before it could be finished?
Oh, girl, I'm about to tell you. I'm about to tell you.
Tell
So
me.
March 1st, 1999, Warner Brothers executives announced that Stanley Kubrick's first meeting with them resulted in the approval of the final cut. Terry Semel, the CEO, was quoted saying Kubrick was excited and proud. This statement confused Kubrick scholars and friends, who often described him as a, quote, man with no happiness, and noted his extreme perfectionism. The idea that the first draft of a film that was 30 years in the making, that was him like getting the rights to it, adapting it, etc. Not saying it was filmed for 30 years, was accepted in its final cut, first time viewing with the CEOs of Warner Brothers, was fucking bizarre.
Also, I love this of like, I hope I come off the same way. Like if I die and people are like, she really lit up a room. I would love people to be like I want hackles to come up and be like, no, she was in the corner behind a plant wanting to be home.
If the CEO of Warner Brothers comes out and says, like, to eulogize you, that you were a shining light in everyone's life and a beacon of positivity and love, I would hope that the people around you and even just fans of your existence would immediately be like, hey, I think they fucking killed her.
Yeah, they got her. They got her.
So then, 6 days later, on March 7th, 1999, Kubrick died unexpectedly of a heart attack at the age of 70.
Got hit with a CIA gun.
Girl, get ready. Get ready, because we're going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Despite his known aversion to stress and his nature of avoiding risky situations, he rarely traveled. There were no known public health issues or even significant health issues that would lead to his death. He was a relatively young 70, especially given his careful lifestyle choices. He avoided public appearances, and he even wore a helmet while driving to risk getting hurt if any sort of accident was to happen.
I've worn a helmet on an airplane before. So
How'd that go for you?
I survived, didn't I?
You're right. And to wrap the tinfoil just a little tighter, his death occurred exactly 666 days before January 1st, 2001.
On 111? What does 111 mean in numerology?
Well, people also say that it was like connected to 2001: A Space Odyssey. So like they think there's like 17 messages within the reason why he died on that day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, and then on July 16th, 1999, critics noted stylistic differences in the final cut of Kubrick's film during reviews and write-ups as it was released to the general public. From cast and crew, there is said to be, at the very least, a missing 24 minutes of Eyes Wide Shut that contained explicit dialogue and visuals during the ritual scene, and a removed subplot reportedly depicting Mandy being groomed into the society. What we also know is that CGI cloaks and figures were used to obscure sexually explicit action in the ritual scene. Crew members have suggested that the removed dialogue included heavy-handed implications of real-world figures and situations, such as Prince Andrew and Harvey Weinstein. The posthumous edits and the insane quotes from Warner Brothers executives show clear studio interference. Do I think Warner Brothers killed Stanley Kubrick? No.
Yes.
Do you?
I think the CIA did it.
Yes.
NASA.
Exactly. No, I think they censored the fuck out of the movie to protect the people who pay for their super yachts.
Which is crazy, because why would they have approved it in the first place?
Because everyone knew that he had been working on this. It was known that he had been fighting to get the rights. Because it's like based off of a novella that's in a different language that I will not even attempt to. It's like roughly based off of that. So he was fighting for the rights of that. And it was like 30 years of this like back and forth of like going to the drawing board to get a script going.
Got it. It's like the theory that we let 9/11 or Pearl Harbor happen because we wanted to get in the game.
Well,
they let him get in the game so they could take him out. Enemies closer, so to speak.
I also think that it was just not releasing it would have caused more speculation.
Yeah.
I think
especially like, I agree actually, because like, what if someone took like Dolly's paintbrushes away? You'd be like, what the fuck are they hiding?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Having him, like if you knew he was going to die, you would want to release the movie to not seem like you are withholding something or cause for suspicion. So I think it was really just releasing it was less suspicious than saying we're going to scrap it. So
especially if they're just going to edit it after they kill him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as Chelsea has said aloud a little bit, but do you know who I think killed Stanley Kubrick? The CIA.
Anytime it's a heart attack, they have heart attack guns.
Good. We're going to talk about the heart attack guns.
Okay.
Stanley Kubrick's films often challenged prevailing narratives and power structures, putting him at odds with powerful institutions, while still also kind of being wrapped up in them with his very close relationship with NASA. In Dr. Strangelove, we, of course, made fun of Cold War propaganda and highlighted military and governmental incompetence. 2001, it speculated on government deception in space exploration and hinted at the dangers of AI. And ending with Eyes Wide Shut, of course, which was the first time in pop culture history that we confronted the elite organizations, particularly through its depiction of secretive, powerful societies and their morally corrupt behavior, including themes of pedophilia. And I'm not just smoking on that tinfoil hat. Intelligence agencies' influence on Hollywood has long been a topic of suspicion. Movies like Zero Dark 30 are cited as examples where the CIA is believed to have shaped narratives to present a favorable portrayal of the U.S. intelligence operations. Straight Up Operation Mockingbird is a CIA initiative of infiltrating the media to control public narratives, including the content of films and news outlets. A documentary that came out in 2022 called Theaters of War proves that the U.S. military has supervised over 2,500 films and TV shows. In exchange for providing resources, the military often requires script approvals to ensure that its portrayal remains favorable. So there's your connection between intelligence agencies and Hollywood specifically. We know Call of Duty is fully funded by the military as a recruiting tactic. And of course, as we touched on earlier and spoke about in length on the Cold War episode, the House Un-American Activities Committee, where screenwriters and directors were charged in contempt of Congress. So if you want to say our government wouldn't do that, I say, oh, yes, it would.
Our government already did it with comic books, too. Comic books were used as propaganda. They used to drop comics in areas right before they would invade it that showed American soldiers like coming in and fixing the crops and cleaning the water so that when they started to invade, they could colonize it more easily.
Yeah. It is a tale as old as time. But let's get into how specifically CIA did this. In 1975, Senator Frank Church held the Church Committee hearings, which were a series of investigations conducted by the U.S. Senate to examine the activities of U.S. intelligence agencies, particularly the CIA, FBI, and NSA. The committee was officially known as the, let me fucking get ready for this, the Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities.
That's terrible.
It's very, very easy to remember. So
is that IOA? What is that? What does that even break down to? Well, SSCSGORIA.
Seguro.
Sure.
Or the Church Committee hearings. So
okay.
The hearings revealed several illegal and unethical activities carried out by these agencies, including, but not limited to, the FBI and CIA were found to have conducted widespread surveillance on American citizens, political activists, and dissent groups, often without warrants or proper legal justification. The CIA had been involved in various attempts to overthrow foreign governments, including plots to assassinate foreign leaders, one that you would all probably know of, hopefully, maybe. I can't always trust public education, but it's Fidel Castro. The FBI's domestic counterintelligence program was targeting civil rights leaders, anti-war activists, and other political groups considered, quote, subversive, and they were the ones dictating what was subversive. And the one you probably, for sure, hopefully know about is the MK Ultra program, where we learned of the CIA's mind control experiments on American citizens using drugs like LSD without their consent.
The only fun one.
The only fun one. And of course, like the putting diseases and STDs in underfunded communities, blah, blah, all that fucking horrible shit.
Even keeping track of college clubs that weren't like white Americans going into the military. Anything other than that, they would go in and then just weaponized incompetence to bring them down from the inside. Yeah.
All of the horrific shit in history is a connection to the intelligence agencies. It's the reason why we created the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and the establishment of more oversight mechanisms like the Intelligence Oversight Act and the Senate Intelligence Committee. Oh, and another thing that was exposed during the hearings was the CIA heart attack gun.
The best weapon ever invented.
Truly.
And it has killed so many.
Yep. And it continues to do so. It was a covert assassination weapon developed in the 1970s, and here's what we know about it. The weapon resembled a standard pistol or small gun, but was designed to fire a dart. The dart was made of frozen poison or a substance that would dissolve upon impact. The poison would induce a heart attack, leaving minimal evidence of foul play. The tiny puncture wound from the dart would be nearly undetectable, especially without a thorough autopsy. During the hearings, officials demonstrated the weapon, which we will for sure put pictures up for everyone to see, and CIA whistleblowers discussed its use. The CIA has not confirmed widespread use of the weapon, its effectiveness, and specific reason for deployment, but has never denied its existence. Stanley Kubrick wasn't just an innovator, creative, and one of the greatest filmmakers in history. He was fearless in exploration and exposure of controversial topics. His work continues to spark questions about the film industry's relationship with power. And Eyes Wide Shut is layered with subtext, intentionally diverting audiences to focus on the sexual dynamics of the lead characters, while its deeper hidden elements that are left in fragmented pieces slip by unnoticed to some, unless you're like me and everyone on YouTube and Reddit who have watched it meticulously with a fucking magnifying glass.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, because I don't really care for like a sex movie, which is completely how this was marketed. I almost remember this coming out.
You don't see any sex.
Well, I just remember how it was marketed, and people were like, oh, they really had sex on screen, and they totally buried the whole concept of this film in the dirt, to the point where like people who just weren't interested, and obviously like I was very young when it came out, but I remember seeing it at Blockbuster Video and being like, oh, that's the bad movie they talk about on the TV.
Yeah. Which you need to do some deprogramming so you can watch it comfortably. So.
I've been psyoped.
Yep, you have. Successfully. The CIA has psyoped you. So that subtext with the deeper hidden elements is a metaphor for how society's eyes are wide shut to uncomfortable truths. You like what I did there? Mm-hmm. The CIA, with its history of manipulating public narratives and silencing threats, saw Kubrick's film as a direct challenge to its interest. His portrayal of powerful, untouchable elites showed the everyman, real-world scandals involving global leaders and influential figures. Censorship, Jesus, I'll spit that out. Censorship and control are evident in the removal of key scenes, digital cloaks, and altered content in the final cut of Eyes Wide Shut, reflecting the ongoing efforts to protect powerful elites from exposure. The film ends with Ziegler's line, another remaining fragment of Kubrick's conversation with us, and I will end this episode with it. Who do you think those people were? Those were not just some ordinary people. If I told you their names, no, I'm not going to tell you their names. But if I did, I don't think you'd sleep so well at night.
Damn, we're seeing it with Diddy, dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And anytime you look at a cult or organization that resembles a cult, we'll just use Scientology.
Yeah.
The reason why they want you to go clear and have these one-on-one, heavily documented confessional sessions is so that they can have blackmail on you.
Yes.
That they have something to hold over your head to make sure you stay in line. And they know that it's going to take time for you to reveal like your deepest, darkest secrets. So it's this ongoing process. And when you think of these like weird sex trade, exploitation, pedophilic shit, and sex trafficking, you're like, why? Of course, there's a whole conversation to be had about like how historically dying empires have seen the people in power like eat the rotten fruits of debauchery, and it's just like this it's a manifestation of the pure corruption and the death of society and humanity. There's that philosophical debate. And then there's the other one that's just, what's something that they can get you to do that is the most bulletproof form of blackmail that they can have on you? And that's getting you to be involved with any sort of human trafficking, sex trafficking, pedophilic shit, abuse. Like, that's it, period.
Yeah, I know that some of the conspiracy channels I follow go through like humiliation rituals where you'll see somebody do something like super embarrassing, and it's like a grooming process to get you to lower your inhibitions. And like a recent example of one was when John Cena went on that reward show faking to be naked, where he had like his bits covered by his hands, and he came out and everyone was laughing. And it's just these humiliation rituals where someone has to go through something extremely silly, like Miley Cyrus with the whole twerking blurred lines thing, also a humiliation ritual. So it's interesting to watch. Like, if you look for it with a lot of these conspiracies, you can see what happens. And I wonder if like even Tom Cruise's humiliation ritual was like jumping up and down on Oprah's couch, like acting a fool.
Yeah.
Where they want you to see them in this really strange light, and then that way when they emerge later, that's no longer the ridiculous. They have now reemerged as more powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you can go as far down the rabbit hole as you wish with celebrity conspiracies and specifically humiliation rituals. There's like for every celebrity there seems to be an example of it. So but yeah, that's Stanley Kubrick was killed by the CIA.
They got another one.
They did.
They got Kennedy, then they got Kubrick.
Yeah, dude, they got the best of us right there. So, speaking of the best of us, let me push my fucking dog out of the way as she snorts directly into my face.
Little angel.
The best of us is you, everyone, on Patreon, because last night we were able to donate this month's Patreon earnings to the Pasadena Humane Society as they help with all of the animals, whether it was left behind or caught in the middle of, or whatever the circumstances may be that were involved in the LA fires. I highly recommend checking out their social media presence and their website. They have a whole write-up of the amount of animal intake they've had just in the last 24 hours and the best ways to help and donate. So we thank all of you for that. And if you feel so inclined, you can, of course, join our Patreon where $1 gets you in, and we have episodes coming out every time we record. We had one come out recently, and it is us spreading the gospel of the telepathy tape. So definitely listen to that. We also have, I didn't even tell you where you get this. You get this in the link in our bios. I'm at Noelle Thane. That is at Sith Lord. We are at Go to Hell Podcast. And in all of our bios, you can find a link tree. That's how you get to Patreon. That's how you can also get to our merch, where 100% of proceeds are donated. You can get to Kelly Holloran or at Wildwood Owl on Etsy. She makes cool shit for us, and she makes cool shit in general, so check her out. We have resources. I know we still have the Utah Alliance, the Drag Alliance Center still up. And we, of course, have a link to resources and tips on how to help the people in Gaza. We have a link to our Discord server. Shout out to everyone who participated in Secret Satan. I'll just say it. It's fine. We don't have to say Secret Satan.
Whatever.
And we also have a link to our YouTube. So shout out to everyone on YouTube who comments. We try to reply to you. So thank you. Thank you for not bullying us. YouTube will never promote us or pay us. So
we're too hardcore. We're too punk rock.
We're too against the system. So your comments are what keep us on that platform. So thank you. And I don't know why you'd need it, but a link to listen to us, which is anywhere podcasts are heard. Also, I'm realizing we forgot to do our intros in the beginning. We were too busy talking about how we're sick.
Oh, hi. I have so much Dayquil in me.
Who are you, though?
That's me. Hi, I'm Chelsea, and I'm Dayquil.
There we go. Hey, what's up? Sorry for the late intros. My name is Noelle, and I am the Sudafed that you have to get behind the counter.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm definitely Kroger brand NyQuil.
Yep.
So
it is the good shit. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give a hail to, of course, Satan and also Stanley Kubrick and all of his films, minus Lolita, in my humble opinion.
I'm going to give a hail Nicole Kidman for getting out of Scientology.
Yeah, hail Nicole Kidman. Also hail those fantastic photos of her like jumping up in the air with her fists pumped to the sky because she got her divorce from Tom Cruise signed.
Love that.
So
absolutely love it.
Okay. Well, you know what else I love?
Getting the hell out of here.
Getting the fuck out of here.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye.